Guys are ready.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Prime Properties. I'm Michael Morris. Sitting with me, as always, Stacy Plybon. Stacy, how are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Stacy, we have a guest today, and I think this is going to be a good topic because you just closed a home literally before we turn on the microphones, right?
Yes, we went into contract. Just let my client know. It's such an exciting time.
The magic of radio. We get to find out immediately as it happens, right?
Immediately.
Our guest today is Michal Cheney from No Drip Painting, and the reason I thought this was a perfect person is we need to talk about the 5 spaces to paint when selling your house, and you know how important it is to make that house, let's call it show ready, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. And most people aren't like her. Most people do not enjoy painting, so they enlist a professional such as her to do it because fresh paint is important to a buyer. It's just one less thing they have to worry about when they're moving in. And having these tips would be phenomenal.
Michael, first of all, I want to thank you for coming. But second of all, give people a little background on No Drip Painting. And I love the name, the fact that the pressure is on you. You're No Drip Painting.
No drip painting, that's right. The trick really is to not allow anybody to see any drips. In full disclosure, right?
Well, that would be too long on a business card, right? You can't have
Exactly.
not to let them see.
Exactly. But no drip painting, we do interior and exterior painting for residential and commercial clients. We do work with realtors, and we love realtors because we have a big enough team where we can usually cater to the realtors and the homeowners by getting projects done quickly. Because as you know, when you're selling your house, there's a sense of urgency.
Absolutely.
And we strive to meet that demand for our realtors.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, time is of the essence.
Well, let's talk about, we only have half an hour, so I want to get through these 5 points, but I know that Michael's going to walk us through this, right? You look extremely confident that you know this stuff inside and out.
I can do this.
So the main part of this is getting that house ready to sell. You want to make it as appealing as possible, get rid of the dark and dingy areas, the things that look outdated, but let's start with the basics. So the first thing is closets. Why is it important to get that closet space really up to par?
Well, when it comes to closets, I think there are 2 approaches. One is paint, and then one would be just decluttering. And you know what I'm saying?
I say that so much. Yes.
It's true because I
Preach.
think when it's decluttered and you have a nice, clean closet, I always recommend for people to paint them white or like an off-white. So if you've got like a dark navy room, don't carry that into your closet. But the reason really is just because it appears that there's more space in there, better storage. And when you have a nice clean closet that's organized, I think it for buyers, it just makes them think as though you've got, a nice space to keep your things. It's clean, good storage space.
But do you say to paint it the white or off-white because it gives the impression of like it's bigger, like it's a bigger room because it looks so clean and it's so... I think when you see white, I think people start to think of the design they're going to do or the different colors, so you're kind of starting at zero, if that makes any sense. But when you're looking at that, when people are moving in a house, I don't think they want to keep it white. It's just a presentation when you're selling, right?
Well, not necessarily. Even when we work with a lot of designers and our remodelers, they do prefer a white closet, and I think it's just because of it appears nice and clean. For homeowners, I recommend doing the white closets too, kind of for the same reason. And I do think paint can, either make a space feel smaller or bigger.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's the main reason. I just think a nice, clean, organized closet is super appealing.
The lighter color is also, it is going to appear bigger, of course, Michael. That's true, but I think it also allows you to see more. Closets aren't always equipped with lighting inside of them. So if you have a lighter paint back there, you'll most likely be able to see a little bit better than having a dark blue or
Absolutely.
whatever, a darker color.
Well, I thought your favorite part of this would be the decluttering because that was something we talked about a few weeks ago. Like getting
It's
rid
huge.
of that junk. And obviously you have to do that before you paint, but...
Yes, and it's
but-
perfect. It goes hand in hand.
Stacy mentioned a couple weeks ago that that's like one of the biggest things that when she's getting somebody ready to prep a house, whether it's a garage, whatever, is getting that junk out of there.
Absolutely.
And I know we don't want to call it junk because it's
No.
people's personal items, but
Yes.
some of that stuff you're just hoarding for no reason.
Well, absolutely, and we acquire it, especially with families, with kids and stuff. You acquire so much, every birthday, every holiday, every Christmas, whatever, and then through the weeks and everything. So definitely decluttering is a number one must when you're listing your house, and it makes it extremely easy for your painting professional to come in and get access to those walls and the closets and whatnot. It's going to make your photos look better. It's going to allow the buyers to come through and imagine their belongings there, because it's not so overcrowded with all of your belongings. So it's a win-win 100%. You've got to declutter, and you absolutely should freshly paint.
Is that the biggest thing when you're looking at a house? Is that does the seller, do they normally say, here's the rooms I want to do, and do you have to bring up the closets, or they kind of already figure like that's something that needs to be done?
No, actually, when we meet with homeowners, rarely they bring up the closet.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they don't want to take everything out.
Yeah.
But we actually will paint closets at no additional charge. It's just a little extra piece of value that we add.
That's very cool.
So we always say, hey, if you take everything out of the closet, we'll be happy to paint it. So yeah, most of the time it's just one of those spaces that's overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're living in your house, that's fine. But if you're trying to sell, it's just that little extra touch, I think, that goes further than you might think.
Well, it makes it look new too. It doesn't look so well worn, like
Totally.
somebody was hiding this or didn't care about this room.
Yeah.
It looks like when you look at a new house, everything is immaculate.
Absolutely.
Let's go into ceilings. Give a little bit of an idea of why the ceilings matter. Obviously, your eye is drawn to that immediately, but you really have to do that right. You can't just kind of throw up a patch of paint and let it go. Like that really makes a room stand out.
Very true. So one thing I see with ceilings a lot, if someone tries to touch up the ceiling, it's often with not the exact same color. You've probably seen that.
Oh yeah.
So
Even if they do it themselves?
Yes, because there are various different reasons for that. But the one thing I always try and point out to folks is that if they've got any watermarks, say there was an old leak, or maybe in the bathroom you've got a little bit of mold on the ceiling, which can be totally normal, those things to buyers, and you could probably touch on this, are often one of those things that they sometimes can't get over. They wonder if there's still a leak, oh my gosh, is there a mold problem? It might be something so simple that could be fixed with a can of Kills and some touch-up paint, but for buyers, I think that that's often a deterrent.
Yeah, absolutely. Those touch-ups are an eyesore.
Yes.
Definitely, because you have a little yellowing to your ceiling, especially on a house. Even a 90s built home, you're going to see a yellowing to that paint over the years, whether they smoke in there or not. It doesn't matter. So if you just slap up because you did want to touch something up, maybe if you have children like mine, they've thrown a ball up or something and there's like splatter marks from the ball. I've had slime on the ceiling. I mean, I can go on for days probably, but yeah, just doing those light little touch-ups, it does stick out, and it does that even if you didn't have a leak. That could make a buyer wonder, oh, they must have tried to cover up a leak at that point.
Well, I've seen a lot of that in houses when you kind of walk through and you'll see the discoloration from the watermark where a lot of people want to be the do-it-yourself people.
Yes.
So they think, well, I can just kind of touch this up so you won't see it. It doesn't really hide that. So if you don't really address that problem, you've literally almost made it like a target where it looks even worse, especially when you don't have the same color paint to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the best thing if you've got some yellowing on your ceiling or you had a previous patch job is to just paint the whole ceiling with a nice fresh coat of, bright white ceiling paint. It goes a long way.
I love the bright white.
Yeah.
I really do. It does.
I have a question about this because I didn't think about it. As a homeowner, I would think, again, we're talking about white to make it look clean, new,
Yeah.
and kind of open it up, make it look larger. When you're doing a job for somebody, did they ever say, this is what I'm looking, I'd like that to be yellow, or like, did they pick the color when it's if they're going to sell it?
Well, generally speaking, we help our clients with their color selection. So I would normally suggest a bright white ceiling unless there's some sort of, kind of design element they're trying to achieve, then we might suggest something else. But there are so many different colors of white that you could pick a white that you might think is bright white, and it gets on the ceiling and it might not look that white. So we usually go with like an off-the-shelf ceiling white unless there's some other preference that we need to cater to.
Sure.
How does that work for you, Stace? Because I know that you say you don't do the work, but you'll recommend it.
Yeah.
When you've got somebody that's going to sell a house, I know you're going through it and looking at what needs to be taken care of, but do you automatically in your head say, okay, this has to be X color, or it has to be done this way, or how do you approach it?
Yeah, I definitely approach the need or, the suggestion for it. Listen, you're calling me in here. We want to get the most out of this home. as possible. And I'm telling you right now, fresh paint is going to go a long way in this establishment. So here's what we need to consider definitely is ceiling paint, wall paint, however. And my recommendation is always something on the neutral side. Of course, that's the safest way to go. I've had a lot of buyers turn away from a home, even freshly painted home, because it's the color scheme. It was too bold of colors throughout, and so definitely something neutral. But as far as ceiling and color, I'm with you. Unless there's something
Right.
super special,
So nice and bright.
it
Nice
would be
bright
a
white.
nice bright white. It just looks so nice, and so I will make a suggestion, but it's ultimately their decision, and I have to do the best with what I've got. I definitely try to set my hand up to be as powerful as possible and offer my professional opinion, but at the end of the day, they are the ones that make the calls, not I.
But do you see that a lot where somebody will, and again, I know from when I was looking at houses that there's some rooms you just look at and you're like, I can't even imagine sitting in this room. And it can be, it's not the decor itself, it is the paint, it's the look of the
Yes.
room where it's, if you got a room that the walls are red and the ceiling is black because that's just what they wanted.
That's fair, yeah.
Do you ever recommend, like, you should probably repaint this entire thing some kind of base color?
Absolutely. Thank God I've not come across anything that extreme. But I don't hold back. I will absolutely. I'm here
You're
to
not
do
a shy person, I
I'm
know.
not. I'm here to do a job, and that's what I'm going to do. And if you choose otherwise, that's just fine. But on the other hand, if I'm a buyer agent and I'm walking my buyers through, and we were to see red walls and black ceiling, that is something we would attempt to negotiate, or it's something that I would absolutely recommend. No drip. I'm sorry.
Paint, no drip
No
paint.
drip,
No
no
Michael
drip
drip.
Cheney.
painting.
Yep.
I was on the right track there. I apologize. But I would recommend a professional such as Michael, and then from there, I would even just kind of say, listen, this is cosmetic. We can get through this. We will do this together. And
Well, it's cool to hear you say that because I know that, Michael's doing the actual work, but when you're walking somebody through, you actually get, it's almost like a first date. You're getting to hear what somebody thinks of what they're looking at. If you
Sure.
get 2 or 3 people through that home and you keep hearing the same things over and over, whether it's the paint or whether it's the baseboards, which we'll get to, there are things that stick out that it's got to be cool for you to be able to gather that and go, okay, it's not just me.
Yeah.
And now you can make a full recommendation on what needs to be done
Sure.
to sell that.
Absolutely. As a selling agent or a listing agent, I would absolutely say, we always ask for feedback, and if it keeps popping up, we've got to address it. We can't shy away from it. We've got to attack this issue because it's coming up, and it's the general census at this point. And I won't say I told you so, but I will absolutely.
Somehow I doubt that you won't say I told you so.
I won't, but I will be
You'll
a
make
little
a
bit.
note of it.
I will make a note of it, of course. I have to keep track of those. Those are for my own personal. But no, at that point, it would be a little firmer of a suggestion. At this point, it would be, listen, we've got to do something about this. If you want to sell, if you want to move, whatever the case may be, we got to address it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people can't see past the color.
Yeah.
Where it's often the easiest and most affordable thing to change.
100%.
But yeah, a lot of times people just can't see past that.
Well, I think the seller has a hard time because it's I picked this for me. Like
right.
this is my home. This is what I'm proud of, and they're proud of their choices. It's kind of like you can't call somebody's baby ugly if they pick that color scheme. I can't tell you how many basements I've been in, and somebody has everything's done like in the Steelers colors,
Right.
and you just. Somebody else that's a Browns fan might not like that at all. And I'm not trying to be funny. It's seriously, when they're showing their house, that's the room that they comment the most. That's obviously a very personalized area. And it seems like it'd be so expensive to fix that.
Absolutely.
I mentioned baseboards and trim. Baseboards, trim, and doors are all kind of one thing to me. I want to talk about doors just because we were doing Michael was on the show with us yesterday. And we were talking about doors when this had all ended. What's the most important thing? The door to me would be the thing I'm looking at the most as somebody that's going to buy it, right? Or the real estate agent that's selling it.
Yeah.
But the baseboards and trim, it kind of all goes together, right?
Yeah, your door is going to be a higher expense to replace, really, than the trim. But the trim is still kind of a pain in the butt to switch out or definitely peel off and paint. I'm always the one that goes for the suggestion of, let's take all the trim off and paint it. And everybody that I suggest that to is like, no, I'm just going to buy new white trim or whatever, you know, and I'm like, why?
Yeah,
Just paint it.
we paint a lot of trim, so it's
Yeah.
doable, and it's, I think, more cost effective
I
than trying
agree.
to replace,
I'm
unless
here
you've
with you.
just really got some old, dingy baseboard that
beat up,
has a
maybe.
bad profile, and
Yeah.
maybe it's not kind of what's in style these days. But I think when it comes to baseboards and doors, just the fact that they look nice and clean
Oh.
is what's appealing.
Yes.
And sometimes you can just achieve that. I'll tell folks just to take, a rag with a little bit of bleach water on there, wipe your doors down
Yeah.
if you've got nice white doors. Sometimes you don't need to paint them. You might be able to achieve the same look just maybe doing something on your own.
Yeah, if they're white, I go to Sam's. I'm a Sam's member.
Okay.
And I will go and buy a bulk pack of magic erasers.
That's,
and I
yeah.
pass them out to all the kids for my seller, and I'm like, okay, kids, you get $5 for the person that, whatever we could do to make it fun. But yeah, magic erasers on white is fantastic. Bleach is
Totally.
fantastic as well. I love the smell of it personally. I'm weird, but I love the smell of it, and I love how clean it does get things. White is I'm partial to that. I
Right.
love white doors. I love white trim.
Yeah, so the idea is just to have it nice and clean.
Yes.
And again, you might need to do that with paint, but there's other options too. When it comes to your baseboard and trim, what I kind of look for is how good was the previous paint job? Is there
Drips.
wall paint all over the baseboard? See,
Yeah.
no drip painting. We don't do the drip.
Don't have
So
that.
At least you won't see it.
exactly.
They'll fix it before you see it.
But the idea is, have those baseboards nice and clean. You can see a clean paint line. So sometimes it just comes down to how good was the previous paint job, and then just, do those baseboards look nice and clean.
Talking about baseboards, how do you feel about caulking the trim?
Totally. So we have a whole process that we go through, and
Do you?
we do, and we always caulk. So
Stop it.
one thing that kind of separates a good paint job from just not a great paint job is the caulking.
Yes.
So the baseboard, when it, butts up against the wall, there should be a nice caulk line there that your
Absolutely.
paint line can follow. The other piece of that is if you have a shoe molding or a quarter round,
Mhm.
that should always be caulked. Plus any holes from the nail gun, all that should be
Yeah.
caulked, holes should be filled, sanded. So it should be a really
Wow.
nice, seamless look.
But you
in
do
the
all
end.
that, is what you're saying.
We do
do.
all that. I mean, that's just part of our process, but we also pride ourselves on the quality that we put out.
Oh, that's very quality. That's high quality.
Absolutely.
Right there.
So we,
Oh.
we push quality over production. And part of that is because of the clientele that we have. We work with a lot of high-end remodelers, so we custom spray a lot of woodwork. And when you do that, the prep piece of that is essential on the finished product. So
Sure.
the caulking, the hole filling, and,
Oh, yeah.
and sanding is just something that is a natural
Because even-
part of what we do.
Even on new builds, they don't. I think they're just overworked right now. So in their defense, it's hard pressed for them to build in the timeline that they're given. But even in new builds, but definitely in older homes that have settled, the walls are not square. So you put
No.
you put that trim up, and there's a gap there.
Right.
But it's fine. It's typical. It's normal. Kind of comes with the game. But caulking it in.
Oh yeah, that's a major thing for us, and there are even other steps we take with tape and how we layer tape and then caulk after the tape's down. I won't
yeah.
bore you with all that, but the finished
Well,
product.
I don't think it's boring.
It's
I
not
think-
boring me at all.
I
I'm
think
super
people need
excited.
to. I know that Stacey's into it, but I think you and I have talked, Michael, about this. That to set yourself apart from everybody that's
Yeah.
in this industry, I think everybody thinks they can paint or they know a guy, but the level of preparation that you're taking for every single job, like this is very detailed. The expectation should be to get this kind of service from somebody that's painting your home,
Right.
not just I'll paint these walls for $500 and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm loading up my paint bucket and I'm out. So feel free to keep talking about that because this is a process I don't think a lot of people understand what goes into it.
Yeah, okay, I'll keep talking tape then. I'm cool with that. No, but it is so because our focus is quality, we take the prep part of our job very serious, and oftentimes that can be what takes the longest. Because if you prep properly, then your quality in the end is right on. So we just have a different approach, and our painters have a different approach, and we really feel like our painters have a skill set and and we try and, you know, honor that and reward them for, you know, improving their skill set, learning more. So that's at the forefront of what we're doing. It's really quality driven, not production.
I have a confession. I hate taping off. I will paint, but I just don't want to tape.
No taping.
I am one that challenges myself to control the paint on the edge of my brush.
Sure.
And I will go slower than molasses
To avoid the
to
tape.
avoid taping
Yeah,
off.
I gotcha. It can be a tedious job, but I'll tell you, people often think that the only reason you tape is to get a straight line, but that's not necessarily the case. We rarely need to tape to get a straight line because we've got some great painters.
Sure.
But you might want to tape your baseboards if you're rolling your walls and say you've got, you know, white baseboards. We will tape that off just to protect the baseboards from sprinkles.
Yeah.
So again, that's just kind of a step in the direction of ensuring we have great quality.
Yeah.
So we use tape for various reasons other than just a straight line,
Yeah.
actually.
That's a very good point.
So
Well, let's bleed into that because we've kind of talked, you know, the top, the bottom, the baseboards. Now, let's talk accent walls. Can you kind of give a little feedback of your own why that's important in a home?
sure thing. I think you can have accent walls as long as they're tasteful, and we kind of touched on that
Let
earlier.
me ask your personal opinion. Do you like them as a homeowner? Do you like them in your own house?
I do. I mean, I think that from like a design standpoint, you can do really cool things with accent walls. We also do wallpaper installation, and that's, as you probably know, becoming more popular again, especially in the commercial setting. So we'll do accent walls with wallpaper. But I think you can pull off an accent wall. It just has to fit kind of the entire scope of the room and the feel that you're going for. Like we were kind of talking about, color can really turn people off. So if you're walking in a room and it's got, you know, some bright accent walls that might not go well with the decor, that can be a bit of a turnoff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of folks for a while were interested in this, having seemingly neutral walls, no issues, and then all of a sudden, blam!
A crazy.
There's
I
a
wonder
crazy
where that
wall.
comes from. It just seems like when you read a lot of these architectural magazines and all, I think people wanted to do something that was like a quick splash to make a room look different or kind
Sure.
of jazz it up.
Yeah,
But again, that only works for your specific eye.
Right.
And the next person coming in might go, I want it to be plain. Like if you looked in the 90s, the middle of the 90s to early 2000, everything seemed to be that bland white, cream color. So it was allowing you kind of like this canvas to build it the way you want. And then people would just choose, well, I'll just do this one wall. And I don't know if that was I honestly don't know if it was out of, this is what I have budgeted for this, or this would be a fun project. But it just seems like there's not a lot of personality in those homes in that era. If you go into the 70s and 80s homes that have been remodeled and upkept, there's a lot more character to it.
yeah. No, I agree. And I see a lot of glitter walls now.
A lot of glitter walls
A
and
lot.
stripes,
And
kind of
yeah.
crazy
Yeah,
colored stripes. We've done a few of them. So yeah, I think you can pull off an accent wall. It just has to be tasteful. I usually just suggest to folks to bring their color through their, you know, their window treatments, their throw pillows, their rugs. There are things like that that you can do if you really want the color in the
Yeah.
space.
no, I definitely agree. Get rid of the accent wall. When you're listing, let's just get rid of it. Let's go neutral. I don't even care if it matches the 3 other walls.
Right.
You know, like let's just do that.
I'm with you.
Well, the last piece of this, and this is perfectly timed, is wallpaper. Because you brought up
Okay.
wallpaper, and the sad part is you only have 2 minutes to talk wallpaper. I just have this one question. Do you remember when there was a little bit of a trend, and you're a little bit younger than me, but when people were painting over their wallpaper?
Yes, and people do that because
Why are
it's
they
hard
doing
as heck to get off. When
Mhm.
normally when you take wallpaper down, there can be a lot of wall damage, and for your normal homeowner, they can't really fix that. We have special tools and products that we use that help remove wallpaper, but back in the day, back in your era, if
I'd
you
like to
didn't
point out that we're like 1 year apart. by the way.
if you didn't size your walls and you try and take the wallpaper off, it can be very difficult. But wallpaper has kind of come back around, especially with the designers. It's just in a little bit of a different, way than in previous years.
We should tell people, or you should tell people, Michael, how they can get a hold of you again, because we didn't even do that. We just kicked right off into this
We did.
topic. But
We
if
wasted some
somebody's
time.
interested in any of your services, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So you can check us out on Facebook at No Drip Painting, or our website at www.nodrippainting.com.
Stacy, you give yourself a shout out because as we're going home for the week, I want people to know how they can get a hold of you as well.
Yeah, like me on Facebook, Central Ohio Homes and Lifestyle. That's centralohiohomesandlifestyle.com.
Yeah, that's perfect. I like that you're looking at me and questioning
What
whether
is-
that's right.
What is
I
my
think that's
information?
well, you're Stacy Blybar from Emerge, so we'll just say that. We'll leave it at that for the week.
Sounds
Michael, I want to thank you so much for everything you gave us today, and thank you for coming in.
Yes,
again.
thank you.
Thank you.
And Stacy, always good to see you. And that's going to be it for Prime Properties this week. We will see you next weekend.